My sister burned my house down after I refused to hand it over to her. My parents pleaded with me to forgive her, but I let the police take her away anyway. My name is Ethan. I'm in my late 20s, working in operations management. It's not a glamorous job, but it's stable. Long hours, endless problem solving, always trying to keep things from falling apart. Honestly, that's pretty much been the story of my whole life. In my family, I was the responsible one, which really just meant no one ever bothered to check on me because, hey, Ethan would be fine. My parents, Gregory and Catherine, acted like I was born with a user manual, like I always knew what I was doing. If I struggled, they figured I could handle it. Then there was my little sister, Chloe. She was their precious collection, always to be dusted off, kept safe, never overwhelmed. Every single thing she did, no matter how questionable, was hailed as heroic, or impossibly difficult, or just too much for her to bear. I stopped expecting fairness years ago, but some things still sting. So, after 5 grueling years of saving every single penny, no holidays, picking up extra shifts whenever I could, I finally bought a house. Nothing fancy, just a small 2-bedroom cottage on the edge of town. Most people would have probably walked away, given the sheer amount of work it needed. But I looked at it and thought, I can make something truly substantial out of this, if I'm just patient. The paint was peeling like old wallpaper. The floors looked like someone had dragged metal furniture across them for a decade. The kitchen cabinets were so warped you could see daylight through the gaps. But it was mine. No roommates. No landlords. No shared walls. For the first time, walking into a space, I felt this profound sense of relief. Like all those years of cheap ramen and fixing my own car might finally be worth something. Renovating that house became my second full-time job. I'd work a 9-hour shift, come home, change, and then tackle whatever new nightmare the house threw at me. I watched video after tutorial until my eyes burned. Some nights, I'd just collapse on the floor surrounded by tools. My shoulders ached for weeks. Weekends were for the big stuff, gutting the bathroom, ripping out old flooring, repairing the sagging deck. My best friend, Marcus, came by often to help with the heavier jobs. He's been my rock since high school, and he knew enough about my family to understand why this house meant so much to me. He'd joke that it was my evidence of survival after years of playing a supporting role in my own life. He wasn't wrong. When I finally showed my parents the progress, they seemed proud, but it was that low-key kind of proud, you know. The kind where they don't want to make a big deal out of anything. My dad just looked around and said, "You were always handy, son." As if it was obvious I could restore an entire house on my own. My mom smiled and said it was lovely. Not remarkable. Not astounding. Just pleasant. I know they meant well. I do. But it felt more like they were just ticking a box. If Chloe had done the same thing, they would have thrown a massive party with decorations and speeches. Speaking of Chloe, my parents still talk about her wedding like it was the event of the decade. Years later, they're still reliving every color, every detail, how magnificent it was, how proud they were of their daughter. I later found out how much they actually paid for it. I never got that kind of enthusiasm, that kind of support. When I mentioned that the down payment was a struggle, they just said they wished they could contribute more evenly, but Chloe needed it right then. Like, need only matters when it's hers. But the truth is, I didn't buy the house to impress anyone. I bought it because I wanted something that couldn't be taken away, or rearranged, or altered to fit someone else's agenda. And as I stood outside, after finishing the last major task looking at my home, I expected to feel part of something bigger. Instead, I just felt stable. Strong. Like I had finally created something that was entirely mine. What I didn't realize was that the people around me didn't see it the same way. For me, it was a home. For my family, it was just available. And that distinction? That's where everything went horribly, terribly wrong. I planned a small housewarming. 8, maybe 10 people. Just my immediate family, Marcus, and a couple of coworkers who helped me move the heavy stuff. Nothing fancy. I ordered a few pizzas, set up some folding chairs because the living room furniture hadn't arrived yet, and envisioned a casual afternoon where people could see the work I'd put in. Chloe arrived 15 minutes early. With 12 people I didn't know. They swarmed through the front door like it was an open house. I barely had time to process it before my mom, Catherine, clapped her hands and said it was wonderful that Chloe brought some family spirit. I was about to say something, but my dad, Gregory, cut me off. It's family, Ethan. Stop being weird. More people means more love. It didn't feel like love. It felt like a siege. Chloe walked in as if she were the host, not me. Her little son, Oliver, was on her hip, and she immediately let him loose to explore the house. Her guests wandered around, opening drawers, complimenting things that didn't need complimenting, like a hallway light switch. Her husband, Gavin, came in last. He had that usual look he always has, chin slightly up, eyes scanning the room like he was assessing a business venture he hadn't paid for. He gave a slow nod, as if he'd approved of the layout. It irritated me more than I expected. As everyone settled, Chloe started making comments that sounded like jokes, but landed like tiny daggers. Wow, Ethan, 3 bedrooms? What exactly are you planning here? A bachelor compound. I managed a tight, polite smile. She kept going. It's kind of wild. One guy with all the space. What are you going to do? Talk to the walls? Must be nice having no real responsibilities. A few people chuckled. I did not. My dad jumped in with his own brand of helpful commentary. Well, you do have extra space. Chloe's just pointing out the obvious. My mom added, I always said you'd grow into something like this when you finally settle down. Maybe it'll push you to think long term. I didn't know what to say. They made it sound like I'd bought a toy, not a home I'd poured my soul into. Then the house tour started. I hadn't wanted to do one, but Chloe insisted. She marched ahead of the group, opening doors as if she were inspecting property she already owned. When she entered the first bedroom, she turned to her audience and declared, "This would be perfect for Oliver. Look at that natural light. He needs sunlight." I blinked. I thought she was exaggerating. She wasn't. Gavin leaned against the doorframe, grinning like everything made perfect sense to him. Yeah, he said, I can see this fitting our needs pretty well. Our needs? He said it as if he'd already moved in. Marcus stayed glued to my side, watching the whole train wreck unfold with this grim, stiff look on his face. He saw it. He wasn't wrong. Chloe continued treating every room like she was shopping for a child. She didn't bother to supervise Oliver, who was dragging a plastic toy across the wooden floors I'd spent 3 weekends sanding and sealing. Every scratch felt like a punch to my gut. No one stopped him. Not even Chloe, who was too busy discussing how she'd arrange the furniture in Oliver's future room. Later, in the kitchen, one of Chloe's extra guests opened my fridge and asked if I had more drinks. When I politely asked him to stop rummaging through my personal belongings, he didn't apologize. He just smiled and said, Chloe said this place was basically family property. I stood there, wondering if I had misheard him. Chloe gave me a look that suggested I was being dramatic. Relax, Ethan. Nobody cares about a fridge. It's just family. Marcus murmured something under his breath that sounded suspiciously like a threat. I almost asked him to repeat it. As the tour wrapped up, I realized I hadn't said a single word. The entire event had been Chloe leading, pointing, assigning, redesigning, behaving as if the house was some kind of communal resource that I had selfishly hoarded. People were barely finishing their pizza when Chloe clapped her hands, loud enough to cut through every conversation. She stood in the middle of my living room as if she were about to give a presentation. I froze mid-sentence. Marcus peered over from the couch. Some of her guests quieted down. Chloe grinned, a little too wide. I didn't move. I wasn't giving her the stage, but she took it anyway. I have a plan, she announced, pulling a manila folder from her oversized purse. I took a step closer. A plan for what? This was my housewarming, not a strategy meeting. She ignored me, opening the folder, pulling out printed papers. That alone infuriated me. She had come prepared, deliberate, confident. Since Oliver needs a yard and stability, she began, and since you have all this unused space, Gavin and I came up with a solution that benefits everyone. I crossed my arms, squaring my shoulders, signaling that I would not entertain whatever this was. But she didn't back down. If anything, she straightened up, expecting full claim. "You transfer the deed to us," she said, as casually as if she were asking for a cup of sugar. "It just makes the most sense. A young family needs a home more than a single man does." The room went dead silent. Gavin stepped up beside her, hands in his pockets, like he was there to negotiate the merger of two companies. "Your mortgage isn't crazy," he said, nodding toward me. "It's doable, and we've already mapped out how we'll use the rooms." I cut him off. "You're talking like you own the place." Gavin smirked as if I was being unreasonable. "We're being practical. You're a grown man with extra rooms, and your nephew actually needs the space." Chloe laid another sheet on the coffee table. "Here's how it works. You transfer the house to us, and then you can rent the basement apartment. We'll finish it. It'll be perfect for you." Something warm crawled up the back of my neck as I heard her confident voice. I moved closer, my voice dropping, but not softening. "I am not renting anything from either of you. I bought this house and renovated every inch of it myself." Chloe waved it off, as if it didn't matter. Yes, you worked hard, but stability for a child is more important than your pride." Then the figures came out. Chloe pointed to a page with highlighted lines. "The mortgage is around $1,300 a month." I didn't respond. Gavin moved forward. "We can contribute $500, maybe $550 when things are going well. You'd cover the rest because you make more." I laughed. Sharp. Loud. "You want me to give you my house and then pay most of the mortgage?" Chloe asked without blinking. "It's not giving, it's helping your family. If you say no, you're choosing money over blood." This time, I didn't hold back. "You don't get to guilt-trip me in my own living room." Chloe tried to hold my gaze, but mine didn't waver. She looked away first. Gregory cleared his throat and stepped forward, trying to appear nonchalant. "Let's just hear both sides." I shut him down. "There aren't two sides. There's my house, and they're attempting to take it." Catherine stepped in immediately, hands raised like she was a referee. "Ethan, honey, stay calm. Your sister is just trying to solve a problem. No need to get so tense." She was staring at me. "She made up a problem," I said, "and her solution is stealing my home." Marcus rose from the couch, arms crossed. Gavin snorted and puffed up. "This isn't the negotiation. This is theft with extra steps. You don't understand how housing law works. I read that if you have extra rooms and refuse to assist family members, a court can." Marcus chuckled, sharply, without amusement. "That's not a law. That's something you saw online." Gavin's eyes widened as if he'd been caught cheating on an exam. "It's a thing courts look at. Neglect." "Stop," I spat out. "Don't pretend you know anything about law. You downloaded one PDF, and now you think you're a judge." Chloe's expression turned cocky. "So, you hate your nephew? That's what this is. You'd rather have him grow up in an apartment without a yard than support us. You are heartless." I moved closer, looming over her. "Do not use your child as a shield. This is about you wanting something I've earned." The room was silent for a moment. Everyone was waiting to see what I'd do next. Chloe looked around, as if expecting someone to back her up. Nobody did. Not even the strange guests she'd brought. I pointed to the door. "All of you, get out. Now." Chloe gasped, as if I'd slapped her. "You're kicking out your own family?" "Yes," was my response. "Before you try stealing anything else." Gavin grumbled something under his breath, but didn't argue. Gregory looked astonished. Catherine covered her mouth, but I didn't care. Marcus stood beside me like a wall. I opened the door wider, and one by one, they left. That's when the house stopped feeling safe. And this was just the beginning. My phone lit up the morning after I kicked everyone out, before I even got out of bed. At first I assumed it was Marcus checking in. No. It was Chloe. A wall of text dominated the screen. Paragraphs. Voice notes. Screenshots of things I never said. Lengthy guilt trips written as if she were auditioning for a dramatic play. She didn't even try to hide the insults. "You're not a real man if you can't help your own family. You only care about money. You're cold and selfish. Oliver deserves better than an uncle like you. She alternated between threatening me, digitally sobbing with sad emojis, and lecturing me on what it meant to be a brother. There was no pause between texts, just a nonstop barrage of alerts. Then Gavin started. His tone wasn't hostile, exactly. It was condescending, as if he believed my reaction last night was just a minor setback. Let us know when you're ready to have a mature conversation, he texted. We can work out the rent terms when you calm down. I'll start looking at contractors for the basement. Don't worry, I'll pick affordable ones. He was texting as if he were the owner. I blocked his number. He found another one and texted me from there. He even sent a list of proposed modifications he wanted me to make before they moved in. I didn't respond to either of them. By lunchtime, Chloe had shifted strategy and taken the battle public. She wrote on social media that I had booted out a woman and her infant in front of witnesses, and that I valued empty rooms more than family. People who had no idea what happened commented with love and stay strong, mama, under her posts. She even shared a few pictures from inside my home. In the comments, several of the people she'd brought tagged themselves as if it was a fun party, not an ambush. I wasn't shocked she twisted it. I was amazed at how quickly people believed her. My dad, Gregory, called around 3 p.m. I expected him to start with something logical, acknowledging how ridiculous last night had been. Instead, he sighed, as if I was the cause of all this. Ethan, can't you just apologize and talk to your sister? She's hurting. She's not hurting. I corrected him. She's angry because she didn't get her way. He brushed it off. You know how emotional she gets. Don't escalate it. Then, my mom called. I sent both of them screenshots. Proof. Actual texts and voice messages where Chloe called me heartless, and Gavin pretended to have already moved in. My mom continued to minimize it. Gregory cut in again. You're being arrogant, son. You're always stuck in your ways. Just be the bigger person. I nearly laughed. She tried to take my house. How am I the problem? Neither of them responded. Marcus visited that night. I showed him every message. He didn't sugarcoat anything. This is harassment, he stated. You need to document everything. Screenshots, timestamps, and upgrade your security. People like this don't stop just because they're embarrassed. There was something in Chloe's tone that felt unstable, like she'd convinced herself she was owed something. So, the next morning, I installed exterior cameras. Doorbell cam, backyard cam, new locks, motion lights. Nothing fancy, but enough to help me sleep better. I stopped opening the door until I'd check the camera first. They recorded to the cloud, which made me feel a little safer. But most of what they captured at night was blurry shapes and motion, not clean faces. When Gregory and Catherine found out about the cameras, they acted like I'd bought attack dogs. You're escalating, Gregory stated. You're treating your sister like a criminal, Catherine added. This is unnecessary. No, I said. This is protection. They refused to accept that. Family gatherings changed quickly. I stopped going. Relatives who only knew Chloe's version started acting like I had committed a crime. I got texts from cousins repeating her lines. Family members shouldn't fight over a house. You could have handled it differently. She just wants stability for her child. No one seemed to care that the stability she wanted was the result of years of work I had done alone. Even worse, word spread that I had exploded at the party, as if raising my voice in response to someone demanding ownership of my home was an unreasonable reaction. Gavin claimed I threatened him, which never happened. I didn't threaten to hurt him. I didn't make any violent promises as he'd told people. I shut him down and told him to leave. That was it. By the end of the week, it felt like half my family had transformed into Chloe's echo chamber. Marcus remained consistent, though. Every day, he reminded me to avoid emoji-filled traps and manipulative messages. He advised me to save everything and maintain a calm exterior. People like them use chaos as leverage, he explained. Don't give them more. I tried. But each day felt like a new level of disrespect, an accusation, or an attempt to make me feel guilty for not handing over something I built myself. I already had a work trip scheduled for the following week. It should have been a straightforward 2-day conference out of state. Instead, I left with a heavy tension in my chest. As I locked the door behind me that morning, I looked back at my house. For the first time since purchasing it, I didn't feel excited or proud. I felt uneasy. Something was coming, and I could feel it. I was halfway through the second day of my business trip when my phone rang. An unknown number. Normally, I ignore them, but something told me to pick up. A calm voice introduced himself as a member of the fire department in my hometown. He gave my address and then said the words I never expected to hear. "There's been a fire at your property." Everything around me vanished for a split second. My laptop screen, the conference room, the notebook in front of me gone. My first instinct wasn't even fear. It was disbelief. I asked if they had the wrong address. They didn't. I grabbed my bag, told my supervisor I had an emergency, and got in my car. The drive back was a blur. I don't even remember the roads. Only the pressure in my chest increasing with every mile closer to home. Marcus called because one of my neighbors had his number from when he helped me with the deck. "They're saying your place is on fire," he told me. "I'm heading over right now." When I finally arrived at my street, I saw the flashing lights first. Fire trucks. Police cars. A few neighbors standing outside in their jackets. And then I saw it. My house. Or what was left of it. The right side was completely blackened. The windows had been blown out. Smoke was still curling from the roof. My stomach dropped so hard I felt lightheaded. But what hit even harder was seeing Gregory and Catherine standing with two officers, talking quickly, waving their hands as if they were defending someone. My mom approached me before I could say anything. "Ethan, honey, don't panic. These things happen." "These things?" I asked. My voice sounded sharper than I intended. My dad stepped in quickly. "Your house is destroyed. We don't know what caused it yet, so don't go accusing anybody. Fires start accidentally all the time." I hadn't accused anyone. They were saying it before I had even processed the scene. One of the firefighter investigators approached me. He introduced himself, asked if I was the owner, and began walking me through what they'd seen so far. His tone was professional but firm. They deemed the fire suspicious. The point of origin appeared to be intentional. There were signs that someone had been near the side entrance recently. When they asked about cameras, I pulled up the clips. The footage showed a figure cutting across the yard's edge toward the side entrance. Hood up, head down. Nothing you could positively identify from a grainy nighttime video. The feed then dropped, as if the power or router had been deliberately disrupted. A few minutes later, the fire started. Then Catherine said, "Remember, our daughter lives nearby. She would never do anything like this." The investigator looked perplexed. "Ma'am, we didn't mention any suspects." That said it all. The police wanted to speak with me. They led me to the back of a cruiser, which was quieter. They asked about conflicts, recent threats, anyone who might have a motive. I opened my phone and showed them everything. Chloe's lengthy messages, Gavin's smug texts, the public social media posts, even the housewarming chaos. "That's a lot," the officer stated. "Do you have the names of the people who were at the housewarming?" "Not all," I told them. "She brought strangers, but she posted about it, and they tagged themselves in the comments." I screenshotted it all. They photographed my phone screen, asked follow-up questions, and carefully documented everything. As I walked back toward the curb, I saw Chloe standing a few feet away, arms crossed, eyes red as if she'd been crying. She wasn't being questioned. She didn't seem upset by the fire. She seemed upset that I was giving the police information. When she saw me, she immediately went into performance mode. "I can't believe you're letting them think I had anything to do with this," she said, her voice trembling. "I'm your sister. I'm your mother. Why would I ever hurt you?" I didn't say she did anything. I didn't imply it. But she responded as if she'd already been accused. Gavin stood beside her, trying to appear composed. "You need to be careful what you're saying to officers," he said. "You're emotional. You don't want to create a false version of events." He was staring at me. I told them the truth. He gulped hard. "Just don't let anger cloud your judgment," said the man who had tried to claim my house 2 weeks before. Marcus finally arrived and went right to my side. You good? He asked quietly. No, I replied. Not even close. He stayed there, a steady presence, while Gregory and Catherine hovered on the opposite side of the yard. I overheard Gregory tell an officer, "My daughter would never do this. She's a caring person. Whoever told you otherwise is exaggerating." The officer responded, "Sir, we're gathering facts. We haven't been told anything specific." Catherine kept looking at me as if I was the one who started the fire by cooperating. When another investigator approached me with clarifying questions, Gregory stepped forward like a defense lawyer. "Do you need to keep asking him questions? He is upset. Consider saving it for later." I said, "Dad, let them do their job." Catherine looked at me as if I had betrayed her. The questioning continued. More evidence was collected. More officers walked around the property. Every few minutes, someone would ask me another question about the timeline or motive. Each time, Chloe and Gavin became more tense. Eventually, one officer approached me and spoke quietly. "I'm not saying anything officially yet, but the pattern of damage and the timing lines up with someone who knew you weren't home." My teeth were grinding. I didn't say anything. When I looked back at my parents, they were huddled around Chloe, as if they were comforting the victim herself. It was obvious. By the time the firefighters had cleared the scene and secured the area, the evidence pointed to Chloe. And my parents weren't simply refusing to see it. They were already planning her defense. The investigation proceeded faster than anyone expected. A week after the fire, the police called me early in the morning and asked me to come in. I sat in a small room alongside an investigator and a detective. Both of them appeared serious, yet calm. They laid out their findings. Traces of accelerant near the back entrance. Shoe prints that matched a specific brand. My cloud footage showing a hooded figure moving toward the side entrance before the feed dropped. A neighbor's camera that caught her car near my street when she claimed to be at home. And the history of threats leading up to the fire. When they said, "We're issuing charges," my chest tightened. Not with satisfaction or even fear, but with the crushing weight of everything becoming real. Chloe was arrested later that afternoon. I didn't get the news from the police. I heard it from Gregory, who called me in a panic, breathing heavily, as if someone had died. "Ethan, what did you do?" he demanded. "They came to her house and took her away in handcuffs. She's married. She has a child." "I didn't do anything," I told them. "They arrested her based on evidence." "You could have stopped it," he said. "You should have told them this was a misunderstanding. Families don't destroy each other like this." My jaw clenched. "She burned my house down." Catherine cut into the line, crying loudly. "She made a mistake. She wasn't thinking clearly. She's under stress. You know how fragile she is. She has a baby. How could you let this happen to her?" "How could she do this to me?" I replied. Catherine sobbed harder. "You can still fix it. You can retract your statements. Tell them you exaggerated. Clarify the timelines. Say you're unsure. Anything. Just help your sister before her whole life is ruined." I almost laughed at the absurdity. I told the truth. "I'm not lying for anyone." Gregory's voice dropped, cold and sharp. "You are ruining this family." "No," I said. "Chloe did that." He hung up. 2 hours later, Gavin posted on social media claiming she was unjustly targeted and betrayed by her own brother who hates mothers and doesn't understand family loyalty. His followers ate it up. He painted her as a victim of a cruel system and an even crueler sibling. Then Gavin messaged me from a new number, trying to sound tough. "You crossed the line, man. Fix this. Drop everything or things are going to get bad." I ignored it. He sent another. "I mean it. Don't underestimate me." Still ignored. That evening, I stepped out of my car in my driveway, what was left of it, when I heard someone walk up behind me, fast. I turned just in time to see Gavin rushing toward me, jaw clenched, fist balled. "You think you're some kind of hero?" he snapped. "You think you're going to win? You're nothing without family. Nothing." Before he could grab me, I shoved him backward. He stumbled but came right back, swinging sloppily. I sidestepped, grabbed his arm, and pinned him against the hood of his own car. He struggled, but he wasn't strong. He fought like a man who thought bluster was enough. You want to try that again? I said through my teeth. Marcus pulled into the driveway right then and saw the whole thing. He got out, ready if needed, but he didn't have to lift a finger. I had Gavin completely locked. Get him off your property and call the cops, Marcus said. Gavin tried one more weak shove, so I released him with a hard push that sent him stumbling several feet back. He tripped, caught himself, then pointed at me with a shaking hand. You'll regret this, he hissed. You're destroying our family. Your family destroyed itself, I said. Now get off my property. He scurried to his car and peeled out like a teenager who just lost a fight he started. Marcus walked over. You okay? I'm fine, I said. He won't be back. You know he tried to put on a tough guy act, right? Marcus said. You barely touched him. Guy fights like a wet sock. For the first time in weeks, I almost cracked a smile. The next few days were worse with Gregory and Catherine. They stopped pretending to be neutral. Every call was another attempt to twist my arm. Just tell the court you misunderstood. Think about Oliver. He needs his mother. Why are you doing this? Why are you being cruel? Each time, I gave the same answer. I'm not lying. Catherine cried every call. Gregory yelled every call. Both blamed me for everything. But Marcus stayed steady through all of it. You're not doing this to her, he kept reminding me. She did it to herself. She's responsible for her choices. You're just telling the truth. That's what kept me grounded. Facts do not change just because people cry about them. As the case progressed, my parents became colder. Shorter texts, brief calls, more accusations. It wasn't long before the tone changed from begging to outright resentment, like they despised me for not sacrificing myself in the way they expected. One night, after receiving another message from Catherine calling me heartless, I finally realized something that should have been obvious long ago. I wasn't just losing a sister. I was also losing my parents. The court process was not quick. It was not satisfying. It was nothing like people imagined. It was paperwork, waiting rooms, phone calls, meetings with attorneys, brief hearings where everything felt heavier than the time allotted to discuss it. However, the case progressed, and the truth eventually surrounded Chloe from all sides. The plea agreement was reached in the middle of the summer. Because the house was unoccupied and she had no prior record, the charge she pled guilty to was not the maximum they could have imposed. The prosecutor proposed a deal that guaranteed restitution while keeping the case out of trial. The judge suspended jail time on the condition that she pay, comply, and stay clean, and warned her on the record that a single violation would result in a sentence. She took it. There was no dramatic speech, no final attempt to deny anything, no major emotional breakdown, just a quiet admission to the charges because the evidence was too clear to fight.
Guilty.
Her sentence included probation, mandatory counseling, community service, and something more important, court-ordered restitution. She owed tens of thousands in damages. It wasn't a random number. It was directly tied to the fire investigation, insurance assessment, and the cost of the damage she caused. The restitution was structured as a long-term payment plan she could not avoid. Wage garnishment, tax return seizure, financial restrictions. It was the only time the court seemed to recognize what I had lost. In addition, insurance compensated me fairly. They covered temporary housing, personal property losses, structural rebuilding estimates, debris removal, and a portion of the replacement cost for items purchased during renovations. They didn't hand me one large check. The initial funding covered temporary housing and immediate losses. The larger portion came down to a choice: rebuild and claim full replacement value, or reach a final settlement and walk away. It was difficult to get through the paperwork, and I argued with the adjuster several times, but the payout arrived. Enough to recover, but not enough to forget. The house's remains were inspected, photographed, documented, and then cleared. After the insurance settlement was finalized, and it was clear that I wasn't going to rebuild on that lot, I sold the land to a small development company and let them deal with whatever happened next. I did not want to step foot on that property again. Meanwhile, child services became involved through the court system. Any parent who commits arson, particularly against their family, is flagged. They assessed Oliver's living situation, scheduled supervised visits, and required parental classes. It was a mess, and none of it was my fault. But in my parents' eyes, it was still all about me. Gregory and Catherine stood outside the courthouse on the day Chloe was sentenced, waiting for me. Catherine had tears running down her cheeks. Gregory appeared to have aged 7 years. Neither of them looked at me in the same way a parent would look at a son, but rather as someone who had ruined their carefully arranged world. Catherine was the first to step forward. "Ethan, enough is enough," she said, her voice shaking. "She's had her punishment. Please stop now." "Stop what?" I asked. "I'm done. The court handled it." "You didn't have to push it this far," my mom insisted. "She's married. She has a child. He needs stability." I looked at her, astounded that she could say that with a straight face. He needed stability before she set my house on fire. Catherine flinched, as if I had slapped her. Gregory stepped in. "You got your compensation. You got your payout. You're starting over anyway. Just drop the hostility. Let her rebuild." "You think compensation fixes everything?" I asked. "You think money replaces the home I spent months rebuilding, or the feeling of being hunted in my own family?" "You're being cruel," she said softly. "No," I said. "I'm being honest. Something you two haven't been with me in a long time." Their expressions hardened, not because they disagreed, but because they were finally hearing something they had never wanted acknowledged. It did not end there. They tried one more angle. "Do it for Oliver," Catherine implored. "He needs his family." "He has family," I corrected. "Just not me." That was all. No yelling, no lengthy speech, just the absolute truth. I walked away as they remained frozen on the courthouse steps. That night, I blocked Chloe, Gavin, and eventually Gregory and Catherine. It wasn't vengeance. It wasn't rage. It was about survival. You can't have people in your life who will watch your house burn and then blame you for the smoke. The final part of the insurance settlement was processed 3 months after the court case closed. I had enough to rebuild or relocate. I chose neither of those old paths. Instead, I accepted a job offer from a branch of my company located 2 states away. Better pay, better weather, and distance. I packed the little I had left. The fire destroyed most of my belongings, so I moved into a clean, quiet apartment with new walls that didn't carry old echoes. Marcus clapped my back as we finished unloading the last box. "Feels like the first normal chapter you've had in a long time," he said. He was right. There was no celebration. No victory lap. No dramatic rebirth. Just silence. The kind of quiet a man notices after years of tolerating noise. I found my rhythm again. Work, sleep, small routines centered on my life, and no one else's. The first time I cooked in the new kitchen, I didn't consider who might knock on my door or demand something from me. Months later, sitting on my new couch, I remembered something that had stayed with me my entire life. My family always labeled me as strong. People believe that's praise. It's not. Being the strong one was just an excuse to take from me, assuming I'd never break, complain, or require anything in return. I'm no longer their strong one. I am just a man, living in peace, far away from those who mistook my stability for something they could exploit. Seriously, what would you have done in my place? Have you ever had to draw a line in the sand with family like this? Tell me what you think in the comments below. I really want to know.